bags where horror lies.
Hello and welcome to Body Bags. My name is James and I'm your Tuesday night reviewer. And for this week I decided to bring you the 2022 movie Smile, directed by Parker Finn. So this is one that got a bit of buzz when it came out. I remember the first thing I actually kind of really saw about this movie, it was a still from a baseball game where they had this woman just stood there smiling, and it was the article was talking about a marketing campaign, and of course it was this movie. She had various people popping up and doing these eerie smiles at these different events. I thought that was like quite a cool way to get the buzz around the film going. A clever marketing scheme, especially with how the film is. So anyway, we follow she's a doctor, Rose, and she works on this psychiatric ward. Now she has this patient, this young woman that comes to see her, and this woman she's convinced that she's going to die. She's saying that she keeps seeing people and they're just stood smiling at her. They can take the form of someone she knows or kind of anyone. Kind of a little bit like It Follows. Takes the form of anyone, but it's not following her. It's just standing there smiling. And it's told her when she's going to die. And she starts to get really freaked out. Like when Rose, she's like, Rose doesn't believe her and she knows, so she starts kind of getting really angry, and then she suddenly starts screaming when she looks up at Rose, and there's nothing in the room with them. So Rose goes to make a phone call. She's like, needs assistance. It all goes quiet. She turns around and this young woman who stood there is just smiling at her really eerily, and it basically just slashes her throat open and of course drops to the floor and dies in a pretty horrific way. Yeah, so that's quite a bit to see. So obviously this affects our Dr. Rose quite a bit. She's already like under a lot of stress at work and stuff like that. Anyway, the next day she's at work, and there's this other patient, this very calm guy, although he's always on about like he's gonna die, everyone's gonna die, his family's gonna die. And then he's just sat there smiling, and he starts screaming at her she's going to die. So she calls the alarm because she thinks he's getting violent, but it's actually, we find out it's a hallucination. He's just lying there asleep in bed. So this is freaking her out because she's realised, she's like, oh Graham, I'm going to break down, I need a rest or something. But she starts to see more and more things, like she's in her home and she sees this reflection of the girl that killed herself, but it's not, there's nothing there, or is there? So yeah, her boyfriend, he's starting to get a bit kind of like freaked out about this as well, because her mother actually had mental health issues and actually committed suicide, or she died of an overdose. And so he's kind of, I think he's freaking out, thinking that she might be going down that same path. But anyway, there's more and more things going on, like the cat's gone missing, she can't find it, and just generally she's just not in a good place. She has a like meal with her sister and his husband, and they're kind of talking about this old family house that they have, and breaking into arguments. She's telling them to fuck off and stuff, and things are getting a bit heated. But anyway, she actually goes to her nephew's party. She buys him this toy train like a few days before and goes to the party. I think she's trying to feel a bit calmer, but he goes to open the toy train and it's the dead cat inside. Of course everyone's starting to freak out a bit, and then she starts hallucinating that everyone's just stood there smiling at her. It freaks her out. She drops through this glass table behind her, cuts her arms massively. A bit freaky for the poor kid, I must say that. But yeah, she goes to the hospital, and obviously they're treating all that. And so the boyfriend, Trevor, I think his name is, he actually gets an intervention with her therapist, because she's a doctor, but she has therapy herself because or the trauma she went through her early life, which obviously pisses her off. She's like, I don't need an intervention. But yeah, she starts to, once she fell through that table, she actually starts to think that she is cursed herself. Now, when it was one of these deaths, there's the police officers there, and one of them was her old boyfriend. So she's in contact with him, and she's like, she wants him to dig into the case a little bit more. And if she finds out that the girl actually saw her teacher commit suicide, he did this with like a claw hammer or something like that, beats his head in or something like that. But that's actually told at the start of the movie, like when she's in there. But you find that he witnessed a suicide before, and it's this chain of all these people that have like witnessed a suicide who then go on to commit suicide themselves, obviously freaking her out. So she goes to like speak to the wife sort of thing, trying to get some answers. She goes to her sister, trying to explain things, and the sister's like you're just freaking out and you're going nuts just like our mum did, sort of thing. And then you're getting all these more hallucinations. Quite a few jump scares in here. A few too many sometimes. I'm not a huge fan of jump scares, but some of them are pretty done well. Not too over the top, just maybe a few too many of them. But anyway, they're looking more into this chain, and there's this one break in the chain of this killer. And they actually go and visit him in jail. And he tells that to break the chain, he violently killed someone in front of someone else, and that person that saw the murder, it then gets passed on to them, and that's how he's alive, sort of thing. So then she's like, she's not accepting of this. She's like, well, I'm not going to go and kill someone like that. But she kind of has the idea that, well, if she disappears and she's not around anyone, then there's no one for her to die horrifically in front of, to commit suicide in front of. So then this entity can't pass on. So she goes to this aforementioned house that she used to own. It was her mother's house that they still own. And yeah, so she goes there, and you actually find out through some more flashbacks that her mother was like basically ODing, and she did nothing. She didn't call for help or anything like that, so she let her own mother die. So she has these demons inside her, of course. And yeah, she actually comes pretty much face to face with the entity, and there's a bit of a struggle and a fight, and it breaks. Basically, there's this fire, and it burns to death. And she's like, oh, I've actually got away from this. So she then drives to the ex-boyfriend's house, the policeman. And she gets there and explaining sort of things, and he starts smiling. And that's when you realise that she's still at the house. She's hallucinating some more. But that boyfriend has tracked her phone and turned up there. So he's like, she runs in the house screaming, locks him out, and then the entity comes for her again. So it's this big scuffle. He's trying to get in the house. He kicks his way in, and she sets herself on fire, and he gets to witness this horrific death of someone that he still loves. And that's the end of our movie. So it just continues and continues. Now, I really like this one. It's I think it made my top 10 of the year 2022. There's a few bits and pieces, couple of pacing issues maybe. So some of the story, some of the areas are a little bit weak, but I mean there's bits that I really do like. There's this one where her therapist turns up at the house, and they're talking, and then she gets a phone call, and it's the therapist, and she realises it's the entity in the house. And there's some really cool scenes in this. Like I said, there's jump scares, but they're well done. Maybe a few too many, but still they're well done. It's not just relying on jump scares. It's just a cool trigger point to help. Like the kind of the feeling and the theme of the movie. It's not just relying on those. They're just, like I said, this extra trigger point. But yeah, I think a lot of people have heard of this. Maybe not everyone's seen this. Maybe they're a little bit possibly put off by what they've heard. Because, I mean, I've heard mixed reviews, but I'm definitely on the camp of this is a good watch. And I will be picking this one up. It's not actually in my collection at the moment, but at some point I'll wait for a sale and I'll definitely grab this one. Of course, I just watched it a few days ago and enjoyed it just as much as the first time I actually watched it. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this review and I'll catch you next week. Thank you. Good night.